Okay, it's time for a little introduction to abdominal training. Now, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of misconceptions as far as training the abdominal region. I'm going to try to clear up some of that confusion before actually showing you the 3 different exercises that I have for abdominals. And first and foremost, I do have it split into 3 different sections. I have my DVD kind of menued so you have upper abs, lower abs, and obliques. And if you've noticed, they're all in quotations. So even though I have upper abs, you really can't only train the upper abs. All those muscles tend to contract in tandem, they contract together. You can maybe have a little bit more emphasis on a certain area. You can emphasize the obliques, you can emphasize the lower abs, but you can't work them in isolation. So you can't target, and also another thing, you can't target body fat reduction. You can't spot reduce fat. Lower abs are tough to see for a lot of people because that's just really the last place you lose body fat. So there's no point in doing 1,000 repetitions for abdominals just trying to burn body fat off that area. Actually, I've said this time and time again, the big muscle groups are what are responsible for burning body fat. So exercises like squats and leg extensions and leg curls and pull downs and rows and chest press, all those exercises are actually better exercises for burning body fat off the abdominal area. So you can't spot reduce body fat, but you do want to use abs. You want to use them to develop stability for your core. Another issue right there. A lot of people tend to only focus on core training. They tend to do it first in their routine, but abdominals are used for almost every other exercise. They're used for stability already. When you're doing a lateral raise out to the side with dumbbells, you can't help but use the abdominals. So people spend so much time on the abdominals, you really don't need to put that much into them. You can use them at the end of a routine. They're already warmed up. They're already fatigued. You can just finish them off with one of the exercises I have in my menu. It's another important point. You don't want to work abdominals first in your routine. A lot of people want to emphasize their abdominals, so they do it first. They'll do like medicine ball or physio ball crunches with medicine balls. They'll do machines. They'll do things that really focus on the abs. The problem is if you fatigue your abs first before doing other exercises, you're probably going to strain something. Since abs do provide some stability to the spine, to that whole core section, if you train abs to fatigue, if you train them to failure, and then you go do, say, a set of squats. Your abs are fatigued, so your lower back's going to take more of the brunt of the workload, and you might be more likely to strain your back. So usually it's best to save your core training to the end of the workout program. Also, abdominal exercise should only involve trunk flexion. It should bring your sternum, your upper body, down to your pelvis. So basically you can think of your pelvic bone and your xiphoid process, the little notch there at the bottom of the sternum, bringing those 2 bones together. The abdominals, they basically attach at the upper part of the body, attach to the sternum and the top ribs, and then they insert down in the pelvic region. So either pelvis bone, the iliac crest, some kind of the hip bone, and it's bringing that together. So any exercise where you're actually bending at the hips, hip flexion versus trunk flexion, where the axis of rotation is just around the belly button or north of the belly button, that's using the abdominals. But if you bend at the hips, as in like sit-ups, so you're doing a sit-up exercise, and you're bending forward at the hip joint, that's really not working the abdominals anymore. If anything, it's working it as an isolation move. So if you do full sit-ups, a lot of people do sit-ups for abs. You're lying on the ground, you have your feet placed underneath a roller, or somebody's holding onto your feet for support, and you do a full sit-up. I don't care if you have your hands crossed over your shoulders, behind your back, or anything, but anything that bends your hip joint forward, you cannot help but use your hip flexors. The hip flexors are the muscles that attach to the top of the thigh, the femur, the thigh bone, and when you do a full sit-up, you can actually feel that muscle contract. You can't help but contract that muscle because that's actually what's pulling you up. It's actually like a spine up. You're pulling your upper body up to a vertical position by contracting the hip flexor muscle. It's not really an abdominal exercise anymore. You're pulling up on your spine. It can damage your lower back. The only reason you feel any kind of abdominal contraction whatsoever is to counteract the tilt. You're basically putting a lot of stress on the lower back, just like with doing leg lifts or leg raises, like those military type. You feel your abdominals contract just trying to counteract the tilt in your lower back, the arch in your lower back, so it's a safety mechanism. But the abdominals aren't really contracting. You're not getting any kind of range and motion change between the sternum and the pelvic bone when you're doing like a leg lift. And instead, when you're doing abdominals, you should actually bring those 2 points of the bones together. So, with all that being said, you don't have to worry about it too much if you do the 3 exercises I'm recommending, because I'm gonna basically tell you how to do things to bring your sternum and your pelvis together without injuring the lower back. So you can't spot reduce fat. You should do abs last in the routine. If you want to do all 3 different aspects of your abdominals in one day, that's great. Go ahead and do upper, lower, and obliques. Do all 3 at one time. So say if you don't have the oomph to do abs every single workout, save them to the next time and put them all together. That's fine. Some of the best abdominal training I've ever done for myself is training abs once a week. I'll go really, really hard once a week. It doesn't change body fat reduction at all. I mean, I can still lose a lot of body fat by doing proper nutrition principles, proper cardio training, proper big muscle strength training like squats and pull downs and chest press, things like that. You can still burn a lot of body fat. Abdominals are getting all this indirect exercise. If you just work them hard once a week, that's great. That's really all they need. No more emphasis than any other muscle group. So let's move on to 3 different exercises. You only have to listen to this part once. We're going to go on to push. The push muscle is the upper abs, and then on leg day we're going to do lower abs because just they're in the same similar area of the body. And then when we do pull day, we're going to get the obliques. Okay?